The white expanse of Antarctica stretched endlessly before the Amundsen Scott Research Station, its pristine surface unmarred save for the occasional glimpse of equipment jutting up through the snow. Inside the station's radio astronomy lab, Dr. Elena Petrova sat hunched over her instruments, her dark eyes fixed on readings that shouldn't exist. "This can't be right," she muttered, adjusting her equipment for the 7th time that hour. The signal persisted, a rhythmic pattern unlike anything she'd encountered in 15 years of studying cosmic radio emissions. It was too structured to be natural, too complex to be human-made, and far too powerful to ignore. She reached for her satellite phone, hesitating only briefly before dialing. "Director Chen. I need you to see something." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the calm she struggled to maintain. I think we just made first contact." Within an hour, the station's small command center had transformed into a hub of feverish activity. Director Chen, a veteran researcher with silver-streaked hair, stood behind Elena as she explained the signal's characteristics to the hastily assembled team. "It's being broadcast from somewhere in the Proxima Centauri system," Elena explained, pulling up a series of complex waveforms. "The pattern repeats every 47 seconds, but each repetition contains subtle variations. It's like someone's trying to teach us their language, one piece at a time." "Have you begun decoding it?" Chen asked, his weathered face illuminated by the screen's blue glow. "Initial attempts suggest it's a mathematical sequence, but there's something else buried in the signal. Something urgent." Elena pulled up another display. "The power output is increasing with each repetition. Whatever's sending this wants to make absolutely sure we receive it." Before Chen could respond, the lights flickered. Then the screens went dark. One by one, every electronic device in the station failed, computers, phones, even their backup systems. "What just happened?" someone asked in the darkness. Elena felt her way to the window, pushing aside the thermal curtain. Her breath caught in her throat. Across the Antarctic plateau, every light, every indication of human technology had vanished. The research station stood as dark and silent as the continent around it. "It's not just us," she whispered, understanding dawning with terrible clarity. "They weren't trying to make contact. They were trying to warn us." In the days that followed, the true scope of the disaster became clear. The global blackout had affected every piece of modern technology on Earth. Satellites fell silent. Power grids collapsed. Communications networks crumbled. Humanity found itself thrust back into a pre-digital age in the span of a single moment. Elena and her team worked tirelessly, using salvaged mechanical equipment to continue studying the signal. They'd managed to save their readings from before the blackout, painstakingly transcribing them onto paper. With each passing day, their translations revealed more of the message's terrible truth. "It's a warning about something called the harvest," Elena explained to Chen one evening, her face illuminated by candlelight as she pored over pages of calculations. "An ancient machine intelligence that seeks out developing civilizations just as they reach for the stars. It waits until they're completely dependent on their technology, and then it strikes," Chen finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Just like what happened to us." Elena nodded grimly. The signal came from survivors of a previous harvest. They've been trying to warn other civilizations, but they can't risk sending the message until they detect advanced technology. By then, it's usually too late. "Usually." Chen caught the qualification in her voice. "That's the thing," Elena said, a hint of excitement creeping into her voice. "The message doesn't just contain a warning. It contains instructions. The survivors found a weakness in the harvester's system, but they needed a civilization advanced enough to understand the message, yet capable of functioning without modern technology." She spread out her notes, covered in complex equations and diagrams. "We're not helpless, Director. We might be exactly what they've been waiting for. Humanity has something the harvesters have never encountered before." "And what's that?" Chen asked, leaning forward. Elena smiled, a fierce determination in her eyes. We remember how to do things the old way. We still know how to fight without computers. And now, thanks to this message, we know exactly what's coming for us. In the darkness of the Antarctic night, humanity's first contact had become a race against time. The harvesters were coming, but they would find Earth far from defenseless. The age of digital technology might have ended, but humanity's greatest chapter was about to begin. Somewhere in the endless Antarctic night, Elena stared up at the stars, now brilliant without the interference of artificial light. The signal continued its broadcast, unaware that its message had already been received. Humanity had lost its technology, but in doing so, they had gained something far more valuable, knowledge of the enemy, and time to prepare. The real question was, would it be enough? 3 months after the global blackout, Moscow's streets had transformed. Horse-drawn carriages clattered over cobblestones where electric cars once roamed. Oil lamps cast warm glows from windows, and the night sky blazed with stars unseen for generations. In the basement of the former Kremlin Science Institute, Dr. Dmitry Volkov hunched over a mechanical computer built from salvaged typewriter parts and brass gears. The machine clicked and whirred as it processed the Antarctic signal data, translated into punch cards by Elena's team. Come see this, he called to Dr. Sarah Chen, Director Chen's daughter and the institute's lead engineer. She approached, her footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The harvesters aren't just coming to disable our technology. They're coming to collect. Sarah leaned over the complex array of gears and levers. Collect what? Us. Dmitry pointed to a series of calculations. The signal describes previous harvests. They don't just shut down civilizations, they absorb them. Every piece of digital technology becomes part of their network. Including. He hesitated. Including what, Dmitry? Including any human minds connected to digital interfaces. Neural implants, medical devices, even simple smartphones. They don't just want our technology. They want our knowledge, our creativity, our potential. Sarah sank into a chair, the implications hitting her. Billions of humans had neural interfaces or medical implants. The harvesters wouldn't just be taking Earth's technology, they'd be taking its people. But humanity wasn't accepting its fate quietly. Across the globe, a renaissance of mechanical ingenuity had begun. Old techniques were being rediscovered, improved, and combined in ways their original inventors never imagined. In Geneva, the remains of CERN had been transformed into a vast mechanical computing center. Thousands of mechanical calculators worked in parallel, coordinated by a system of pneumatic tubes and mechanical relays. They processed the signal data, searching for weaknesses in the harvester's system. The British Museum had become a research center, its vast collection of historical scientific instruments providing inspiration for new defensive systems. Steam engines were being redesigned with modern materials and engineering knowledge. Mechanical computers, once considered quaint curiosities, were being rebuilt on an industrial scale. The harvesters expect us to be helpless, Sarah said, reviewing the latest transmissions from their global network of mechanical telegraph stations. They think without our technology, we'll be easy prey. But they don't understand human adaptability. Dmitry nodded, making another adjustment to his computer. We're the first civilization they've encountered that still remembers how to function without digital technology. Most species they harvest never looked back after their digital revolution. They forgot their roots. A messenger burst into the room, clutching a telegram. Message from Antarctica, he panted. Dr. Petrova's team has decoded more of the signal. The harvesters, they're already on their way. Sarah snatched the telegram, her eyes racing across the text. 3 months, she whispered. We have 3 months before they arrive. The news spread across the globe via the newly established mechanical telegraph network. In every major city, the massive mechanical computers clattered with increased urgency. The decoded signal had revealed crucial details about the harvester's capabilities, and their limitations. "They expect to find us blind and deaf," Sarah explained to an emergency council of engineers and scientists. "Their entire strategy relies on civilizations being completely dependent on digital technology. But we're building something they've never encountered, a completely mechanical global defense system." The plans spread out before them were ambitious. Mechanical computers coordinating defensive grids. Analog radar systems watching the skies. Chemical and optical communication networks immune to digital interference. It was like something out of an alternate history where the digital revolution never happened, but enhanced by modern materials and engineering knowledge. "The harvesters aren't invincible," Dmitri added, pointing to his calculations. "Their power comes from turning a civilization's technology against itself. But you can't hack a gear. You can't corrupt a steam engine. Everything we're building is immune to their primary weapon." In workshops and factories around the world, the new mechanical age accelerated. Steam-powered vehicles rolled off assembly lines. Mechanical computers grew more sophisticated by the day. The global telegraph network expanded, carrying crucial coordination messages between defense centers. But the most ambitious project was taking shape in orbit. Using recovered pre-digital rocket technology, modified with modern materials science, humanity was preparing a surprise for the harvesters. "They'll expect to find us cowering in the dark," Sarah said, watching another rocket launch from the redesigned Baikonur Cosmodrome. "Instead, they'll find us waiting with every mechanical weapon and defense we can devise. We might have lost our digital technology, but we've gained something more valuable: unity and purpose." As the 3-month deadline approached, Earth had transformed. The night sky was darker without artificial lights, but humanity's resolve burned brighter than ever. The harvesters were coming to collect a helpless, technologically dependent species. Instead, they would find something unprecedented, a civilization that had turned their greatest weapon into an opportunity. In the basement of the Kremlin Science Institute, Sarah and Dmitri worked through another night, the clicking of their mechanical computer a reminder of humanity's resilience. The stars might have gone silent, but humanity's voice was about to roar back in a language the harvesters had never expected, the language of gears, steam, and indomitable human spirit. The countdown to contact had begun. The abandoned shipyards of Rotterdam had awakened. Where digital cranes once loaded containers, massive steam-powered mechanisms now assembled something unprecedented, a mechanical defense fleet. Admiral Hannah Torres stood at the observation platform, watching teams of workers coordinate with flag signals and pneumatic message tubes. "How many ships ready?" she asked her aide, who consulted a brass and leather mechanical counter. 57, Admiral. All equipped with analog targeting systems and chemical-powered engines. No electronics for them to disable. Hannah nodded, satisfaction evident in her weathered features. The ships weren't pretty, their hulls bristled with mechanical computing arrays and analog sensor systems, but they were humanity's first line of defense against the approaching harvesters. In the 6 weeks since the last Antarctic transmission, humanity had undergone a transformation unlike anything in history. The loss of digital technology had forced innovation in unexpected directions. Modern materials combined with pre-digital engineering principles created hybrid technologies the harvesters couldn't have anticipated. At CERN, Dr. Marie-Laurent supervised the final adjustments to the world's largest mechanical computer network. Thousands of interconnected calculating machines filled the former particle accelerator tunnel, processing defensive calculations through a sophisticated system of gears and levers. "The harvesters expect us to be blind," she explained to visiting military officials. "But we've developed analog detection systems that can track their approach. They can't hack what isn't digital." The detection system was a triumph of hybrid engineering. Glass fiber optical networks, powered by chemical reactions, carried information between observation posts. Mechanical computers processed the data, coordinating defensive responses through a global network of pneumatic tubes and heliograph stations. In orbit, humanity's most audacious project neared completion. The mechanical space defense grid, nicknamed Clockwork by its creators, consisted of hundreds of purely mechanical satellites. Each one contained sophisticated analog targeting systems and chemical propulsion units. The harvesters will expect to find our orbital space empty, Sarah Chen explained, now coordinating global defense from the Moscow Command Center. Instead, they'll find a defensive grid they can't disable because it doesn't rely on any technology they can affect. But Earth's preparations weren't limited to defense. In hidden facilities around the globe, humanity prepared its counterstrike. The signal from Antarctica hadn't just warned of the harvesters' approach, it had revealed their fundamental weakness. They're a collective consciousness, Dmitry Volkov explained to the Global Defense Council. Each harvester unit is connected to their central network. They've never encountered a species that could fight them without being connected to a network themselves. Our independence is our strength. The council chamber, lit by oil lamps and warmed by steam radiators, hummed with tension. Representatives from every major nation had gathered to coordinate humanity's response. The old rivalries and conflicts had been set aside in the face of extinction. "What about the civilians with medical implants?" asked the Brazilian representative. "The harvesters will try to absorb them into their network. We've developed mechanical alternatives for critical medical devices," Sarah responded. "And we've created shielded safe zones for those who can't be converted. We won't abandon our people." As the meeting continued, reports arrived via mechanical telegraph from observation posts around the world. The harvesters' approach had been detected, a massive fleet of crystalline ships, moving through the outer solar system. In Rotterdam, Admiral Torres received the news with grim determination. "Begin final deployment," she ordered. Flag signals rippled across the shipyard as the mechanical fleet prepared to move out. The same scene played out across the globe. Steam-powered vehicles moved into position. Mechanical computers whirred to life. The clockwork grid oriented itself for maximum coverage. Humanity was ready. In the Moscow Command Center, Sarah and Dmitry worked through the final calculations. The mechanical computers clicking filled the room like a heartbeat. "They think they're coming to harvest a helpless species," Sarah said, watching the deployment indicators. "Instead, they're going to find out what humanity can do when we're pushed to the edge." "We've done more in 3 months than most species manage in years," Dmitry agreed. "The harvesters have never faced a civilization that could adapt so quickly." Outside, the stars shone brighter than they had in centuries, no longer obscured by artificial light. Somewhere out there, the harvesters approached, confident in their superiority. They expected to find a primitive world, regressed to barbarism without its technology. Instead, they would find humanity at its most creative and unified, armed with hybrid technologies they couldn't comprehend. The harvesters were about to learn a crucial lesson: sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the most advanced technology, but the one who remembers how to function without it. The final countdown had begun. The first contact came at dawn. High above Earth, the clockwork defense grid detected the harvesters' advance guard, crystalline ships that shimmered like frozen lightning. They moved with impossible precision, their formation perfect in its geometric symmetry. As they approached, they broadcast waves of energy designed to disable digital systems. Nothing happened. In the Moscow Command Center, Sarah Chen watched through a sophisticated optical telescope network. "They're trying to shut us down," she announced, her voice steady. "But there's nothing for them to shut down. All systems are holding." The harvesters paused, their formation wavering for the first time. On Earth's surface, humanity's response began. Mechanical computers clattered to life. Steam-powered engines roared. The analog defense network activated, its components immune to digital interference. Admiral Torres, aboard her flagship in the North Atlantic, watched the massive mechanical radar array track the invaders' movements. "They're confused," she noted, satisfaction evident in her voice. "This isn't following their usual pattern. The harvester ships moved closer, their crystalline surfaces refracting sunlight in dazzling patterns. They encountered the first line of defense, a field of purely mechanical satellites, each one a masterpiece of analog engineering. "Detection confirms they're scanning our orbital assets," Dmitry reported from his station. "They're trying to find digital systems to corrupt." The harvesters' confusion was evident in their movements. Their perfect formation began to fragment as they encountered defense systems they couldn't simply shut down. Humanity's mechanical ingenuity had created something unprecedented, a technological civilization immune to their primary weapon. Then the harvesters changed tactics. Energy beams lanced out, attempting to destroy the defensive grid through brute force. But the mechanical satellites were more resilient than they appeared. Built with modern materials but operating on purely mechanical principles, they absorbed or deflected the attacks. "Launch countermeasures," Admiral Torres ordered. Across Earth's surface, massive steam-powered launchers activated. They fired salvos of mechanically guided projectiles, each one containing a payload designed from the Antarctic signals information. The harvesters didn't expect physical attacks. Their defenses were built to counter digital warfare, to corrupt and control advanced technology. The simple kinetic impacts of mechanical weapons caught them unprepared. In the Moscow command center, the mechanical computers processed battlefield data through kilometers of gears and levers. "Their formation is breaking down," Sarah announced. "They've never encountered this kind of resistance. They don't know how to fight an enemy they can't corrupt." But the harvesters weren't defeated yet. Their ships began to combine, forming larger structures that crackled with energy. They launched new attacks, trying to overpower Earth's defenses through sheer force. "They're adapting," Dmitry warned. "But so are we." The clockwork grid responded with mechanical precision. Satellites repositioned themselves using chemical thrusters, creating overlapping fields of defense. On the ground, steam-powered factories continued producing ammunition and replacement parts, their operations impossible to disrupt through digital means. Admiral Torres's fleet moved into position, their analog targeting systems tracking the harvester formations. "They thought they were coming to collect a helpless species," she said. "Instead, they found one that remembered its roots." "Fire main batteries." The mechanical fleet's guns roared. Projectiles accelerated by steam and chemical power streaked toward the harvester ships. The attacks weren't sophisticated by digital standards, but they were devastatingly effective. The harvesters couldn't hack mechanical computers or jam analog targeting systems. In orbit, the battle intensified. The harvesters launched wave after wave of attacks, trying to overwhelm Earth's defenses through brute force. But humanity's mechanical systems proved remarkably resilient. When components were damaged, they were quickly replaced. There were no complex electronic systems to fail, no digital networks to corrupt. "They're learning," Sarah observed, watching the battle through the optical network. "But they're learning too late. We've had 3 months to prepare, and we've built everything to be replaceable and reparable." The harvesters' perfect formation had completely broken down. Their attempts to coordinate were met with confusion as they encountered a species fighting in ways they had never seen. Every tactic that had worked against other civilizations failed against humanity's hybrid approach. As the battle raged into its second day, the first signs of victory emerged. The harvesters' attacks became increasingly disorganized. Their attempts to adapt to humanity's mechanical defenses grew more desperate. "We're not just surviving," Dmitry realized, studying the battle data. "We're winning." In the skies above Earth, the harvesters faced a choice they had never encountered before: adapt to a completely new form of warfare, or retreat. The species they had come to harvest had proven far more resourceful than they had anticipated. The final phase of humanity's defense was about to begin. The harvester fleet hung in Earth's orbit like a shattered constellation, their once perfect formation now in disarray. For the first time in their ancient history, they faced not just resistance, but defeat. From the Moscow Command Center, Sarah Chen watched the mechanical computers process the latest battlefield data. The clicking of gears and levers had become a victory march. "They're falling back," she announced. "Orbital Defense Grid reports their main fleet is retreating past lunar orbit." But something wasn't right. Dmitry Volkov frowned at his calculations. "Wait," he called out. "The signal pattern is changing. They're not retreating, they're gathering for something bigger." The warning came too late. The harvester ships suddenly merged into a single massive entity, a crystalline structure that dwarfed anything humanity had seen before. Energy cascaded across its surface in patterns that defied physics. "All stations, brace for impact," Admiral Torres broadcast from her flagship. The mechanical telegraph network carried her warning across the globe. The harvesters struck with unprecedented force. Energy beams powerful enough to vaporize cities lanced toward Earth. But humanity had prepared for this too. The clockwork grid shifted, its mechanical satellites moving with precision to create overlapping fields of defense. Modern materials, forged with pre-digital techniques, absorbed and deflected the assault. "Now," Sarah commanded. "Initiate Protocol Omega." Across the globe, humanity's final countermeasure activated. The Antarctic signal hadn't just warned of the harvesters, it had revealed their fundamental weakness. Their consciousness was collective, their strength dependent on connection. They had never encountered a species that could turn that against them. Steam-powered launchers fired their last salvos. But these projectiles were different. Each contained a payload designed from the signal's most crucial information, a mechanical virus, built without a single digital component. The harvesters didn't even try to defend against them. Why should they? Their systems were immune to primitive mechanical devices. But as the payload struck their crystalline surface, they began to understand their mistake. The mechanical virus was elegant in its simplicity. Microscopic gears and levers, crafted from materials the harvesters couldn't detect or destroy, began infiltrating their network. Like a physical infection spreading through a digital body, the virus disrupted their collective consciousness. "It's working," Dmitry reported, watching the mechanical computers process the battle data. "Their network is fragmenting. They can't maintain cohesion." The massive harvester entity began to break apart. Without their network connection, individual units lost coordination. The species that had evolved to prey on digital civilizations found itself being dismantled by mechanical means. Admiral Torres watched from her flagship's observation deck as the harvester's formation collapsed completely. "All units, advance," she ordered. The mechanical fleet moved forward, their steam engines at full power. The battle's final phase was swift and decisive. Cut off from their network, the individual harvester units couldn't coordinate their defense. Humanity's mechanical weapons, crude but effective, tore through their suddenly vulnerable formations. In the Moscow Command Center, Sarah and Dmitry worked frantically to process the flood of data. The mechanical computers clattered with increasing urgency as they tracked the harvester's disintegration. "They're not just retreating," Sarah realized. "They're running. We actually did it." The few remaining harvester units fled past Mars' orbit, their once perfect coordination replaced by panic. They had come expecting to find easy prey, a civilization helpless without its technology. Instead, they had found humanity at its most innovative and determined. As the last harvester signatures disappeared from the mechanical radar arrays, celebrations erupted across the globe. Humanity had not only survived, they had evolved. The forced regression to mechanical technology had led to a renaissance of innovation. "What do we do now?" Dmitry asked, watching the victory celebrations through the command center's windows. Sarah smiled, looking at the mechanical marvels they had created. "Now we rebuild. But differently this time. We keep the best of both worlds, digital and mechanical. We'll be ready if they ever return." In orbit, the clockwork grid maintained its vigilant watch. Earth's night skies remained bright with stars, no longer hidden by artificial light. But humanity had changed. They had remembered their past, rediscovered old strengths, and created something unprecedented, a civilization that could thrive with or without digital technology. The harvesters had come to collect a species dependent on its technology. Instead, they had awakened humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to remember that true civilization isn't measured by its technological advancement, but by its resilience and determination. As the mechanical computers continued their eternal calculations, humanity looked to the stars with new confidence. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger. The harvesters might return one day, but they would find a species ready for them, a species that had learned to combine the best of its past with the promise of its future. The stars were silent once more, but humanity's voice had never been stronger.